So first thing we're gonna do, what do we wanna do first? We'll go ahead and start with this. We'll put everything off to the side. Now, this, folks, from a preparedness standpoint, this is gold right here. Now, the ribs are gonna be, everything is gonna be considerably smaller on a pig like this. But this is where your St. Louis ribs are gonna come from. And I'm gonna do it really this simple. All I'm gonna do, depending on how meaty you want them, you just kind of ride the ribs. And you guys are gonna get a chance on the other side. Anybody got any questions? Is this making sense?
No, makes sense.
Is it simple enough?
No, you're explaining it well.
Okay, there we go. Now, there's always a little floating rib up in there hiding. There you go. So all you do, you can sit here and push down on this, ride your knife up the back, just like this. And all I'm doing is riding those ribs all the way through. So if this were a bigger pig, it would look a lot more impressive. Like I said, these are guinea hogs. I would square these off. I could use my cleaver. This isn't pretty. It ain't great. William, do we have those paper towels in here? Show them how to remove the peritoneum real quick.
As long as it's edible.
You do?
You got some? Okay. So folks, here, when I talk about, we're gonna work on the money cuts first, right? Because it costs money. What I would do if this were a bigger pig, that set of ribs would be considerably longer. All I would do, just cut that off right there, okay? Now you got St. Louis ribs. Okay, anybody know what all this is?
Bacon.
Pork belly. When does it become bacon?
When you smoke it and put all the stuff
That's
on
right.
it.
We're
Yeah.
close enough, you get it. Yeah, so this is, okay, if we don't smoke it and we just salt it and cure it, what's it called then? Or pancetta, same thing. There you go. Uncured bacon, that's exactly
Didn't know
it.
that.
Pancetta. Okay, so what we're gonna do, because we want this nice and square, we'll see if, the guy doing breakfast tomorrow, we'll see if he wants to go ahead and do, I don't know if he's gonna wanna do bacon, because it really needs to set up. Now, okay, this is important, y'all. See this right here? Take a good, everybody get a good look at this, because there's several of them on every pig. It's a gland, okay? You eat one of those, you'll never do it again. And they're typically gonna be at the head, around the neck, and around the reproductive organs, if you have them. Now, when you go eating, when you go eating things like possums and stuff like that, trust me, there's a lot of them in there, especially raccoons. So, we're gonna take this. Now, I can tell by the rubbery texture of this, that's probably gonna be good. I can render that. So I'm gonna put that in my rendering fat pan, and then we're gonna look around it. Now, folks, it's not uncommon at the same time, man, I'm slipping.
Would you
Where's my leaf lard pan?
Would you cut that gland out before you render it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because if you bite in,
That grayish color, that's what they distinct.
they all look the same way no matter the animal. They look exactly the same,
Okay.
these glands. So, folks, here it is. We got on this one pig, and this is how I base how much pork I need for the homestead based on this right here. This is your bacon, okay? As I'm holding this up there, and what do you think it weighs? Because I'm a poor judge of. I was thinking 15.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 15 pounds. On this one pig, that's 30 pounds of bacon. If you eat 1 pound of bacon a week, that's 30 weeks. There's 52 weeks in the year. That's a problem. So if you got one pig, you know what I'm saying? So 2 pigs.
Most people. You think he's exaggerating, but he's not.
Exactly.
Bacon a day, that's a month.
There you go.
We have bacon 3-4 times a week.
We
That's
do?
what-
Yeah.
Exactly. So same here. And we use it for, just like everybody else here, use it for a bunch of
Yes,
things.
we eat bacon every single day.
It's another food group.
So you're using nothing but the bacon off the pig to determine how much pork you need.
That's exactly how we determine it. So I determine everything based on, so if you're wondering from a homestead standpoint, ask yourself how much bacon, because you're gonna get more than enough sausage out of this. Don't worry about that.
All right.
But look at it. Does it look like bacon?
Yes.
Everybody got to look at that? Does it look like bacon?
Bacon.
It just needs to sit up, okay? So, or there's another cool way. If you were in a number of places, if this were a lamb, there's a little side note. If this were a lamb, you could do what's called lamb belly. If it's a big lamb, if it's one of the hair sheep that a lot of us like to raise, it's not good for anything more than you can roll it up, and you know there's some pretty cool meals that the British do with it. British aren't exactly known for their culinary ability, but there you have it. So all we're going to do at this point, this is a wrap. So let me tell you real quick how I do my bacon. We use nothing more than 3 ingredients: salt, pepper, well, really depending on how we do it, salt, brown sugar, and maple syrup. And if you drop off your pig, you're gonna notice you're probably getting back in a few days, right? Well, and then you're gonna tell me you raise natural bacon when I know for a fact it takes 11 days to make natural bacon with salt, with nothing more than that kosher salt and pepper right there. So you ought to be asking questions of your butcher if they tell you, well, get it back to you in a week. Nah, you got somebody else's pig. That's why I said the hardest thing to find is an honest pig and an honest butcher. I mean, an honest butcher and an honest mechanic. Darren, will that fit?
It should. Just like that.
All right, there's pork belly right there. We'll figure out what we're gonna do with it. Darren, there's a Sharpie if you want to write on the top of it.
All right.
Okay, now for your ribs. No, son, go ahead. I'm a little too greasy. Can you go ahead?
I'm greasy too. So
Okay.
this silver skin right here is hard to get started, but once you finally get it started, take a paper towel and use that to get grip on it, and just pull it right off.
Now, when you buy ribs in the store, 9 times out of 10, they still have that peritoneum on the back of it. You can do it with the ones in the store. Just take a butter knife and start on the bone, just enough to get a grip of it with a paper towel, and it'll come right off. It'll make your ribs 10 times more tender.
And it's still difficult after that.
And it's, yeah. So there you go. We got little Yankee ribs, but hey, it's what it is. Okay, now, our other money cut, y'all. Come on, let's see some smiles, because this, I'm acting like Emerald in here.
We're studying, you're having a good time.
Yeah. Okay,
Dude,
so,
I'm working on my master's.
I'm sorry?
I'm working on my master's.
Sorry, okay. I totally understand. Okay, this one. Okay, here's what we got. This is where your pork chops come from, y'all. Here's your loin. If I'm giving you too much information, y'all, let me know.
No, you're good. You're
Okay,
good.
you're okay with
Just
it?
as long as we can ask questions when we need to.
All right, cool. So no matter the animal, doesn't matter what it is. See how I got ribs up here? See how I got this here? Let me spin it around for you. And then down here, I don't have any ribs, okay? Typically, the way it would work is that in a butcher shop, they're gonna cut it off right here. These would be your bone-in pork chops, okay? These would be your boneless pork chops. Now, I left the tenderloin in here on purpose. I could probably, you know what, we could go ahead and take it out. But the first thing we're gonna do is separate the boneless from the bone-in chops, okay? And then I'm gonna show you some more cool tricks. Some of the people at the butcher shop where I learned at the local pig, I had the real great blessing of learning under a Michelin star chef who became a butcher. And the guy it would get pretty violent in the kitchen if you messed up. You got me?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm gonna show you some cool tricks. But also, if you notice on some of the other, I'm not dissing any other homestead channels, they have some people show up. Sometimes you may have to back cut this the whole way if it's not set up real good, so it won't walk on you. That's okay, just get through it. I'm gonna see if I can get a fork. They're out there showing you how to do pancetta, capicola, mortadella, all these high-end cuts. I think that's a profound mistake, because on a homestead, really,
We don't eat those.
you
Not
may
very
eat it.
often.
Exactly. It's so rare and you're using up so much of your animal and you're waiting so long. Is it worth it? I don't think so. Okay. So these, when you buy your pork chops in the store, this is where it's coming from. Okay. They basically cut them on the bone, split them in between here. We'd use the cleaver, but wait, there's more. We're going to do a little something different. Everybody's heard of baby back ribs, right?
Yeah.
Spare ribs and your St. Louis ribs come down low on the belly, okay? Your baby backs come right off the spine. And now, this is the way I choose to do it because I add another meal to something I ordinarily wouldn't get. Now, I'm gonna ask myself, do I wanna do that? Typically, when you take a baby back, now what that would consist of, I'm gonna show you with a knife here. All I would do is take my bone saw and cut it right here, okay? I cut it here, and then I would take these ribs, just like I did with that belly over there. I'd take these ribs, cut them off, and there's your baby backs. But then what I get behind it isn't regular pork chops. I'm getting pork cutlets because they're considerably smaller. But because this pig is so fatty, we're gonna go ahead and do it a different kind of way. Now, what we wanna do, because we have all this, I'm just gonna kind of get going on this and I'll pass it off to Darren. We got in some cases 3 inches of back fat on here, okay? There was actually more because there's some still stuck to the skin that the chickens are eating right now. So all I'm gonna do, and like I said, from a preparedness standpoint, from a homestead standpoint, this is not necessarily a bad thing.
Would you mix some of that in with sausage?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, not on this pig, I wouldn't.
No.
Because the sausage, the
You're gonna
fat
have
to
good enough
meat,
fat
come
content
exactly.
here, but with like deer is what I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
Use that as my deer additive.
Well, it depends. I mean, a lot of people like to use beef fat for deer, but there's no reason at all you couldn't use this. But it's going to take over your deer flavor because now you got pork fat in there. Whereas the beef fat is a little more neutral. But okay, what do I do with this? This is a whole lot of fat. 100 years ago, folks, this is the most prized. It wasn't the meat they wanted. It was the fat they wanted. 9 calories per gram, unlike carbs and protein, right?
You make candles and stuff too.
Absolutely. You can do it. And I guess the wild forager, I guess he's going to make torches out of this. Some of it. He ain't making them with all of it because some of this coming to the house. Okay. Okay, so we'll just kind of trim this up a little bit. These are all things we're going to keep, so we could probably put, oh, that's part of the table. Okay.
Yeah, allow the table in there.
Yeah. So we could get, like I said, this pig is very, very fat. And just remember, when you cut, small mistakes, but I've done this a lot, so it's okay. So you have very small pork chops, but do they look like pork chops, like little pork chops in there? Remember, this is a guinea hog. This ain't no, this is not your typical, this isn't a long money hog. This is a homestead hog. So all we're gonna do, I'll have Darren take it from here. These are my tables, bro. I don't care if you bust them up. I'll go ahead and describe. We're gonna find where the vertebrae meets. If you're unsure, shake it. Just shake it a little bit, okay?
You're gonna cut through the tables.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. We're gonna wind up cutting through the table
Yeah,
too.
you did last time, Dan.
Yeah, but worse yet, I
We
did
don't
it.
have a board, do we?
Oh, yeah.
We do.
Yeah, you got that one.
How big
But you know
was-
what?
Better than the table.
How much did this pig weigh?
Before, he was probably 250 pounds. I'll tell you what, we're gonna do it differently. I'm gonna show you so everybody gets the training on it. We're gonna make them all boneless. So we don't have to worry about it, Darren. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna do them all boneless. So everybody kind of knows. And like I said, you get,
The table in here, Lynn.
yeah, I'm destroying this table anyway. But it's my table, so it's okay. I was gonna make baby backs out of here, but there's so little meat on this, you know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm just gonna show you how to do it if you wanna make them all boneless. Now, this is your chine bone. This is how it would be situated on the pig. This is part of the spine. That's where it was cut down the middle. These are your ribs coming off. They come over like so, okay? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so all we're gonna do, and this is a little more of a skilled kind of cut, but like I said, I mean, even if, like William said, if you turn this whole thing into nothing more than sausage and bacon, I mean, where's the harm in that?
Don't
Yeah,
even
you
look
guys
at
better
that.
not make sausage out of bacon.
Yeah. So, okay, so here's the chine bone, okay? I ran my knife alongside these ribs. I still got my baby backs if I want them, but I'm just not taking any meat with them. So all I'm gonna do, this bone is flat here. I'm trying to get where more people can see it. I'm just gonna take my knife, my boning knife, and I'm just gonna follow down like so. And if you have to, remember, small cuts, small mistakes. I've done this so many times that I can run my knife down. If I'm going too quick, y'all, make sure you slow me down, okay? So more pulling. As I'm to this point, I'm just gonna kind of rest my knife on there. Just like that. You see that rib I left on there? Told you there was a floater on there, I left it. Okay, so there's your baby back ribs on a pig like that. We could take our cleaver. Should we go ahead and do it?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'm probably gonna get right. I don't have a hammer. Hey, hand me that block of wood, son. Go ahead and baton this thing.
On this thing.
All right, son, you go ahead and do it.
Wow.
All right, son, because my hands are used for something else. You can do this with a cleaver. A cleaver could be used. I was gonna show you this if we were gonna make chops. You can put a cleaver right there, bam, bam. That's how a chef would do it. And the reason they use a cleaver and not a bone saw, because there's a certain elegance you want to a lot of this, right? You don't want saw teeth off of everything. So if I can use this cleaver, I can make it look elegant. Why not? Doggone it, we put in the time to raise this stuff.
You want me to cut this chine off?
Yeah, just cut it right here, and then the chine will go. We'll make bone broth out of that. You might want to take half those ribs at a time. Just take like 2 or 3 at a time. Go
I
ahead.
don't know if there's enough resistance in it.
There you go.
Sounds like gunshots.
There you go. This is your chine bone. We'll need another. There's a bone. Here's some more ribs. Maybe we'll cook these too. You'll also want to get the peritoneum off of there. So those are baby back ribs. Like I said, this is a small pig, so you know. This, I wouldn't even clean this up, y'all. I will roast it, and we will make bone broth out of it. Now, here's where we get down to brass tacks. So we got pork chops here, okay? This is a pork loin. This would, I'm sorry, this is the one I just cut. Okay, there's not a whole lot of meat on there. They're mostly medallions, but it's a small pig. But just imagine it a bigger pig at your place, okay? So, let's just go ahead and trim this up just a little bit. Everybody doing all right? Yes. Everybody just so lovely. All right. Yeah, this knife is.
I'm just craving for bacon.
Yes. Okay, so now I'm going to hand this over to Darren. And all we're going to do, remember, this is your pork loin. This is where your pork chops come from. At this point, it's completely up to you. If it was on a big, let's say it was a Yorkshire pig, these would be pretty doggone big, like the size of my fist in there, but these are guinea hogs. Darren's going to take this thing and he's going to cut it in little medallions. Hope you weren't coming here to get full, y'all.
So on a deer, that'd be the same as like what we call the backstrap, right?
I'm sorry?
Outside of the rib, that's the backstrap.
Absolutely. This is why most deer hunters are missing the boat on this stuff, because you're cutting out your back straps. You're cutting out your back straps when you could have been making some really elegant, like here, I can make T-bone. If you leave your back straps and your tenderloin in, you can make T-bones out of deer steaks, and nobody does it. Only time you see it done in a high-end restaurant. But we're not the highfalutin type here, but you can be if you want. Nothing, you know, nothing wrong with a little bit of elegance. I'm gonna hand all this over to Darren. Darren, if you wanna cut these into medallions. Okay, now, this was gonna be your boneless, okay? So just to keep it simple, here's your tenderloin. Every single animal, including you, has a tenderloin. All I'm gonna do, let me get around where everybody can see this. This is the tail end. You see this thing here? That's your tenderloin. And they call it that for a reason, because it is, if you cook it right, it is the most tender meat on the animal. Now, just so you know, let me situate this sucker. Right, this is the back of the pig. This is the part right here. Best part, what some people say is the best part, but I'm gonna show you today, it is not. I'm gonna show you the best part on the pig. This is your tenderloin. It's on the inside of the rib cage. On the outside is this loin, okay? So, I could go ahead and cut this thing with my cleaver down the middle and make T-bones, but we got a lot of people to feed. So it doesn't make sense to make 1 inch or ½ inch T-bones, okay? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut that out, and that'll make another meal. Remember, we're doing this thing from a homestead standpoint. We're gonna run our knife. Like I said, I'm gonna walk you through this one, and then we're gonna get hands on the next one. Now, literally, I could pull this out. I could literally yank this out, but I'm greedy. And I'm just gonna ride my knife down the inside, okay? There's your tenderloin. So when they give you a pork tenderloin sandwich in a restaurant, you ought to be asking yourself, how is that possible? So all we do is trim that up. Now, if this is a deer, you're gonna have a lot of silver skin. And believe me, if it's a deer, get all that silver skin off of there, because if you put that in the crock pot, you're gonna wish it's only gonna get tight as a drum. Okay, there's my tenderloin. We can go ahead and cut that into little medallions if we wanted to. Okay, now that that's out of there, we're gonna do the same thing on this side. So you want me to go ahead and do this, or?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna fill this part. I'm gonna feel where the back of the ribs let off. So I'm just gonna take my knife, just kind of look at that bone. All I'm gonna do is follow it up in there. Folks, this is what I love about doing stuff like this with folks like this. There's people out there charging $500. And I think it's cold-blooded, especially in these times, $500 to do a class like this where you don't even put your hands on it. So it's pretty cool that Matt and Gabby would put on something like this where we can all collectively share our knowledge about whatever. You know, I've just heard a little while ago, a lady has like 1,000 tomato plants, which we got to talk wherever you are. And there's people out here that have know-how that personally I don't have, and I'm just thankful to be in here. And this is what I'm good at, maybe a few other things, but by and large, I'm thankful to be in this room to collectively share our joint wisdom. Okay, same thing as the other side. This is your boneless pork chop. I could have left this one in the porterhouse. So, son, you want to trim this outside off and I'll get on to the next one? Okay, so he's just going to trim off a little bit of that fat back. Okay, so we're mostly done. Okay, now, anybody remember what I called this part?
That's the Boston butt and the
Bam!
picnic.
Shelly, there she is. Boston butt up here. Why is it called the Boston butt? Nobody knows. Pork shoulder, Boston butt, same thing, okay? So first thing we need to do, and I'm gonna show you some key things here, no matter the animal, they still apply, okay? We're gonna get this bone. This is the upper end of the animal, this part right here, okay? So there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. There's some chefs I know. We'll cut it here. Look, I'm gonna start right here. I'm gonna feel this feather bone. This is what your spine looks like, okay? It's like you have a series, no matter it's you, an animal, it's all built exactly the same. You have these feather bones that go down the middle. We're gonna find these feather bones, okay? And I'm gonna get on the other side of them. So you just feel in there. Remember, what's my rule? Small cuts, small mistakes, right? So I'm gonna go slow. This right here is the spine, up by the neck. Now everybody thinks, by and large, that the best cut on an animal, on a pig anyway, is the pork chops. Well, today you're gonna find out that ain't true. And in fact, if you were in let me get some of this blood meat out of here. You don't want to keep any of that. If you were in Italy, and like I said, I learned from a Michelin star chef by the name of Daryl. Believe it or not, that was his real name. You'll find out that most of the cuts that we have available to us in the United States of Amnesia is not available in the rest of the world. And yes, I did say it that way on purpose. Okay, so I got the rest. This is the neck all the way up to the head, okay? So here's the rest of the rib cage. All I'm gonna do, just like before, I'm gonna ride my knife and I'm gonna use gravity to my favor. I don't have to lift it off the table. I just need to add a little tension, okay? If anybody needs me to twist and show you, I'll do it. So all I'm gonna do is just pull up a little bit. I got the neck loose, and all I'm gonna do is ride my knife, just like I did with all the other cuts, down the ribs. Okay, just like that. Small cuts, small mistakes. And just like that, we're gonna ride it all the way through. Keep getting caught on, yeah. Got a little bit low there, but that's okay. There you have it. Okay, so that part is done. Now there's a key point, folks, and if you don't take anything else away, most butchers hate cutting this part of the animal. Two things they hate cutting is cutting off the front hock, which is right here. Rear hock is easy, but they hate cutting off the front because it fits in there like a ball in a socket. We'll get to that in a minute. This here, by the way, hey Darren, you want to clean these out? Well, if we got another knife, can you get the rib meat out of there? And well, here, he can use that one here. So those medallions are gonna look rough. But, okay.
Well, they look better if it was colder.
Right, hey y'all, we're doing this. It was in a cooler, so it's the best we can do. Yep. Any questions so far? Am I making it make sense?
Yep.
Does it make sense? Okay. The neck, same thing. We're gonna use that. We're gonna make bone sauce out of part of this. Anybody know what that is? We'll talk about it later. If you don't know. Bone sauce, so we don't waste anything. Okay, now, remember I'm keeping this the most basic way for you to do it at the house. I'm not getting in any high-end techniques. We're not gonna be doing any of that stuff right now. We're just doing it a paint by numbers sort of thing that you can replicate at home, no matter what. Okay, now I'm gonna step back a little bit so everybody can see this, because this is pretty important. To separate the picnic ham, the ham on the front is the picnic ham. This was just the ham. To separate this from the Boston butt, a lot of people hate that cut, but I'm gonna show you a little trick that most butchers don't even know. There's a little artery, no matter the animal, and it's there. If you pull that bone away like I just showed you, you'll see it. But if you try to separate it with that bone on there, you ain't gonna see it. Right here's the artery, no matter what. You see this? Come over here and take a look at it if you have to. No matter the animal, it's right there. There's a reason you want to know that. Yeah, come and take a look. Get in close. I'll back away if you need me to. There's an artery right here. Okay? Now, on a bigger pig, it does not, I don't care if it's a pig, doesn't matter. That artery will always be there. That is what you are going to use as your demarcation point to separate the Boston butt from the picnic ham. Okay? So, wherever I see that, now this is, I would use this on a cow. It's a bit of an overkill, but it'll do. Now, there's a shoulder blade that hooks into that socket, and we'll see if I can get through there. But wherever that artery is, just go to the upper side of it, make your incision. Okay, I can tell that I'm on that blade. I'm trying to find the socket. There's a ball and socket in there, and I'm pretty close. Okay, now this is where the small cut, small mistakes. Remember, this is where this part fits into your shoulder, and your shoulder blade looks exactly like this. Okay, small cut, small mistakes. If you have to separate it, get underneath it, do it on the other side, or do a butcher's cut like so. Get down in there. Okay. You see where this is separating? There's the, okay, I'm gonna stick my knife down in there so you can see it a little better. See that?
Yeah.
Now,
Oh, you can see the socket.
there you go. You can see it separating from the shoulder. Now, most butchers, if this is the part that drives me nuts, because this is why I hate teaching this stuff with a bandsaw, because not everybody has a bandsaw, but most people can't get access to knives, right? So just like that, I separated, by using that little demarcation point, I separated the picnic ham from the Boston butt, just like that. And if you, I can sit here and shake it, separate it, cut it, picnic ham, Boston butt. Now, we could take this whole thing, and if you want it, where's your pulled pork come from?
Right there.
That's it, Boston butt, right? But there's a
it in a
really
crock pot.
cool cut on this pig that's better than anything else on the entire pig, in my view. And if you were in Italy, they would agree with me. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is just trim up, just to make it easier for demonstration purposes. We're just gonna trim this back fat off of here. Someone got a back fat thing?
So is that where they make like shoulder steaks from? Like where we're at, they make barbecue shoulder all the time. Is that
That's exactly
okay.
it. Where you get shoulder steaks, and it's a crime, really. It should be a crime, because I'm going to show you something here in a minute. We'll just kind of trim this up, just not much, just a little bit.
Did you want to separate them ribs?
Nah, we can leave it whole like
leave
that.
it? Okay.
Yeah, because I'll make stock out of that. Believe it or not, y'all, that makes some pretty impressive stock. And also, as a little side note, a lot of the high-end chefs these days are looking for the very hog you see right now. It's like really fatty. Charcuterie, does everybody know what that word means? Charcuterie? Yeah. Your mortadella, your aged meats, all those types of things, you know. That's why these pigs, these days in the United States of Amnesia, are the most prized when it comes to charcuterie right now. Now,
The fattier the meat, the more it lends to long term.
actually, it's the very opposite.
That's what
It's counterintuitive. If you're doing it in a refrigerated environment, it's perfect. But if you're not,
it needs to be leaner.
it needs to be lean. Yeah. So you want your leaner meats for something like that. But okay, here's another indication. Here's how you know your pig's raised right. And like I said, we didn't put a dime in any of these pigs. If I can cut into a next time you go to wherever you go to get your meat, when you pull, just pull back a little bit of the fat on the outside. If it is not white like that, they raise that pig on concrete. Another indication. If that pig is anything other than rosy color, it is anemic. They raised it on concrete. Okay? If you see those things, that's why if you have a good high-end chef, they're gonna walk into place, they don't buy the meat until they see it hanging. Because I can go in there and that's the first thing I'm gonna do. Here's some more back fat, son. Okay. Here's your Boston butt, right? So that should be the end of it, right? Well, wait, there's more. Okay, this is where your pork steaks come from, just like Shelly said a moment ago. But the best part of the whole blasted pig is right here, and most people in America turn this into grind. It's called the Capicola. It's on every animal, or the gabagool if you ever watched Sopranos. I know he did. He's a gangster from way back. So, and look, he's not even smiling, dude. He's like, hey, I'm gonna just hide these knives over here, bro. By the way, he's the one that came up, anybody watches our YouTube channel, he's the one that came up with all the cool designs we have on the shirts. So, yeah, he's awesome. And his name is not Ryan, by the way. Okay, this right here is called the Capicola, folks. Best, if you're one of the lucky ones that gets it off of here, you're very lucky because I probably ate it first. But anyway, all we're gonna do, it's an entire muscle group, and no matter the animal, everybody turns this in the grind or they waste it, because this is where it's perfectly marbled, it's perfectly integrated. There is no better cut on any animal than the Capicola. I don't care what the animal is. And 9 times out of 10, and then just follow your fat line, okay?
How would you salt cure that? Same as with the bacon, like 2%?
I would do that in a very, I don't even do any salt curing on these guys anymore, because the biggest reason for, is that it doesn't make sense on a homestead. Because every time you cure something, you're losing weight. That's why you can go ahead, you ever eat at a high-end restaurant? Most steaks these days, they say they aged them for 21 days. Most cases, they only did it for 14. It's cold-blooded. That steak should not be, when you get it from the store, it should be very dry, okay? And if it was done right. But when you get past 30 days, 60 days, there's a law of diminishing returns, where it gets to the point where aging it any longer is almost imperceptible unless you're a Michelin judge. But as far as these go, I tend not to even cover much of anything in terms of charcuterie, because, and then I know a lot of homestead channels are like, oh, we got head cheese, we got this and that. You don't need to learn any of that. For example, out here there's a basketball court, right? You wouldn't teach that kid to slam it before they learn to dribble. So if I have an apprentice working for me and they say, hey, show me how to make mortadella, the answer is no. Learn how to responsibly break this thing down. Once you get that down, learn how to bacon, make sausage, then we'll talk about the other things. I'm not.
Sure, yeah.
But I see a lot of homestead channels right there. Oh, we got so-and-so in here. They showed us how to make all this. If you have a real homestead, I don't see how you have time to do it. I mean, honestly.
Make that into steaks.
I'm sorry?
You would make it into steaks.
That's exactly what we're going to do with it. This here, folks, is the best cut. Let me trim it up so you know what it ought to look like.
That's on every animal. Goat, sheep, same thing.
Every animal. It'll be in just on the upper side of the shoulder. It's going to be right here on the shoulder blade. Now, people are wanting the loin down through here. They think that's the best cut. They think your T-bones down here are the best cut. No. I guarantee you, a lot of the European people I know, they would prefer the neck any day because it's perfectly marbled. Has just enough bite to it. Folks, that, I'm sorry? If you don't, not in this part, if you get a gland, yeah, you got it. You're going to have a bad day, nephew. You're going to have a bad day. Yeah, you want to always inspect your stuff, but there is the Capicola, y'all. To me, the best cut on the entire animal. Capicola, gabagool, kappa, and it would work better. And honestly, if I were going to put it in the butcher's case, just run your hand. Notice the difference here. When I just cut it up, it looks kind of jacked up, right? If you're going to present it, rub it down to one side. It makes a difference. That's a butcher's trick. So,
Deluxe.
There you go. That'll be some more steaks right there.
Oh, you want to slice them?
Yeah. Now, this part, when you buy your Boston butt in the store, this is the part you're getting. 9 times out of 10. There's your Boston butt. Like I said, it's a guinea hog, so it's not real big. So Matt, Gabby, do we want to? I can either make this into pork steaks, just like Shelly said a moment ago. Your shoulder steak or your pork steaks always come from this portion right here, or it's always going to be a it's always going to be a shoulder, and it's usually mangly looking, and it always has a bone in it that looks like that, because no matter the animal, that's the shape of a shoulder blade. I don't care what it is. If it's bipedal, if it's on 4 legs, it doesn't matter. It has a
Bipedal?
okay kangaroo, man. I don't care what it is. If it has it's always gonna, the shoulder blade, yours, mine, everybody's, it's gonna be like that and have a flat side. Well, it's gonna look like that. All right, okay. So I can go ahead and bone this out. I'm trying to think because we're trying to feed everybody. And by the way, what time is it getting? So we need to probably fire up that grill for somebody who's gonna
I
cook.
got you. I'll go with the fire now.
Darren, you're my number 2? All right. So we got a couple of things here. We could take this whole thing. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe we ought to wait till tomorrow and get some more stuff and maybe smoke this sucker for lunch. What do you think? You want to do that? Because to cut it in the steaks. Okay, so that's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and save this. We'll go ahead and smoke it. I ain't got nothing. Okay. We'll take a vote because if I do pork steaks out of this, it really needs to be solid. But if I was going to do it, let me just show you how. Here's your socket, okay? That's your part that marries up with this, okay? It's basically this part right here that fits into the shoulder blade. This is it. If you're going to make pork steaks out of it, right here's how you do it. You'd want to trim it off, obviously, first. But this is how you would do it. That's where your pork steaks come from, just like that, okay? Use that as your key. So whenever you see a shoulder steak, whatever, it's always going to be the same, no matter what. So we'll leave this whole. We'll take them both and do barbecue tomorrow then?
Sounds
Pulled
awesome.
pork?
Yeah.
Everybody agree or no?
Hi.
The people who spoke up said yes.
Oh, okay. So here's your picnic ham. 2 hams on every, we'll say on a pig. You got a regular ham, which is back here, and you got a picnic ham, which is like this. So if this were a bigger pig, they call it a picnic ham because they would smoke it back in the day, and they'd throw it up over their arm. This is no joke. They would throw it up over their shoulder, take it on a picnic after it was smoked, because they would leave the hock and the trotter on there, which is the best way to do it. Now, there's a good chance you're going to find glands up in there, like right here. You want to cut them out. But what can I do with this? Okay, there's a couple of different things. Now, most people, let me tell you how most people, if it's a deer hunter, they're going to make grind out of this 100%. What I mean is they're going to take everything off these bones. We got the hock here, which is this part, and we got the shoulder. We got the whatever this bone is up here. I can't remember. It goes into the shoulder blade. There's 2 bones in here. Okay. Everybody out there is going to tell you, oh man, we really ought to just turn this into grind. Every hunter, I guarantee that's going in the grind. Okay, but that's easy to do. All it would require is for me to go ahead and strip this thing off, put it in the grinder, and then have a nice day. But where's the fun in that? So what we're going to do, William, I've seen lots of butchers, and William, my son, is the best tunnel boner on this planet. I'm really convinced of it. Tunnel boning is where it's a very, very high-end method. And what I would do, and I'll show you the beginning of it, but it's not what we're going to do because we're kind of pressed for time. Is Gabby and Matt in here? Oh, okay. So, does everybody need a break, or are you feeling all right? Okay. So, what I would do if I were going to tunnel bone this is a very high-end technique. I'm not going to spend much time on it. I'm going to follow this bone down in there. So, what I'm going to do is trace that bone all the way around. I'm going to pull it and follow the bone all the way. Like I said, my son is better at this than Michelin star chefs. And I'm not saying it because he's my son, but good Lord has blessed me, I'll say that. Plus it's work I don't have to do. Okay, so there is that. So what we're going to do with it first of all, we're gonna get off any blood meat. If you kill a deer, 9 times out of 10, where are you putting that shot? Your heart, double lung, right? But 9 times out of 10, you're probably hitting that shoulder. Anybody? How many people have hunted deer and you got a 3-inch broadhead going through? It's going to destroy a lot of this meat right here. That's why a lot of hunters turn this in the grind, because it's already kind of ground up anyway. So what we're going to do, I could take the hock. All we're going to do is follow your bone. We're going to cut right down to the bone. Dig that? Okay. Do the same thing here. Small cuts, small mistakes. And it's okay in this case because I'm rushing. Believe me, there wouldn't be a whole lot of meat left on this sucker when I'm all said and done with it. But I'm just going to kind of get up in here, and when we do the other half, there's going to be some other folks get to put your hands on this. Or you could go ahead and do what I'm going to do right now. It's really this simple. You can see the bone in there right now. Okay? And remember, just like with every other cut, we're doing more pulling than cutting. Get a little bit here. Get a little bit there. And I left the hock on this, right? Okay. So, get under here. Like I said, William is extraordinary at this. Where, I mean, he will clean this thing off. I mean, it is pretty impressive to see him work. And he does it like uber fast too. He ain't in here because I don't want him to hear any of this. Okay, see that? As soon as you get on it, you can use it like a handle. And if you want, this is one way you could do it. Just take a little bit of cut here, a little bit of cut there. Clean that bone off. There you go. Now, this is still hooked onto the hock. Okay, we're just going to clean that off a little bit more. And remember, remember that commercial? I don't know if, I mean, I don't watch TV, so maybe somebody will have to correct me on it. Remember they had that commercial a while ago, pork the other white meat? Mm-hmm. You understand why now, how that is completely absurd?
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be white. If it's white, it's what? Anemic. There you go. It's anemic. So when you see that white pork in the store, that's not what you want. Okay. See that? It's moving in the ball and socket. Remember the cuts I told you. Matt, is there another class that needs to happen after this, or? No, we are in eating. Oh, okay. So I can kind of do my thing. Remember I told you one of the hardest cuts, the things every butcher hates, is this part that goes in. I'm sorry, the hock, which is this part here, that goes into here. No matter the animal, on the front side of you, it's a ball and socket. It fits in there, and it fits just like this. Here's the bottom part, and the other part's like that. So you have got to cut around it. It is a pain in the keister, unless you're doing what I'm doing right now. You'll see it here in a minute. And you'll really dull your knife doing it too, if you do it the other way.
Do you recommend the brand of knives?
If you're starting out Victorinox, you can't beat. They have a Victorinox Starter Kit. So here you go. This is this bone right here, okay? And this is the front. But you can see, if anybody wants to get closer, you're welcome to. You can see how this fits in there like so. That's why it is the scourge of every butcher, because you gotta somehow get your knife up in there. But if you tunnel bone it and you bring it back, here's your hock. Everybody's heard of ham hocks, right? Okay, now I can just sit here and cut it loose. There's your ham hock. Right there, you want to smoke that, put it in some beans. Now, we got a little bit of hair on there, and folks, I got news for you. If you ever go into a commercial place where they actually do these animals, it is the most ghastly experience of your life, and I've been in those places. Where you see hair on it, because we choose, everybody's heard of scraping pigs. We don't do that. Because it's 10 times more work. Because name one cut you eat on a pig that you have skin on. There ain't one. So why not do it on the front end? Okay? So here we go. There we have.
So what do you do instead, Billy? You don't scrape it.
We skin it.
You skin it.
We skin it because you're going to do it anyhow. At the end of the day, so why not just do it on the front end? Okay, so let me tell you, this is the picnic, a boneless picnic ham, right? And I wish I brought some butcher's twine, but let me tell you how I deal with this. This would ordinarily be all grind. Now, when we cut something up, we want as little grind as possible for two reasons. Number one, every time you mess with this thing, you got the opportunity to introduce more pathogens. But I guarantee you, this pig is far better than anything you've ever eaten out of a store by many magnitudes in terms of its cleanliness. But you'll never see this in the store. Now, what we're going to do with it, if I had butcher's twine here, I'd get it done. We could make this into an arm roast, which would consist of this. Now, by the time I'd get 2 arm roasts out of this if I wanted. I would tie this up and put a bunch of half hitches in it with some butcher's twine, and then I'd cut it down the middle, and then but that's essentially it. Okay, we'll pretty it up a little bit. I'll show you what. This is a boneless arm roast. Like I said, there's a little hair on it. That's completely okay. It'll go away in the smoker. We're on the grill. And imagine it being tied up. This is how you would get it, okay? Boneless arm roast. But 9 times out of 10, everybody takes that, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you want to take this and make grind out of it, that's what I'm going to do, ultimately. But it's up to you. If you want to turn, like William said, if you want to turn this whole thing, Darren, this will be an arm roast. We can just put it in its own little pan. And Matt, Gabby, do we have access to a refrigerator? Are they gone? Okay.
Maybe a small one.
I thought there was a big one back in the kitchen.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right. So nowadays, or as my friend Justin says, the olden days, here's how it would go. You would literally, let me show you how much processing it would require. Okay, let me think about how I want to do this. Because up here you have your, I'll tell you, we'll go ahead and do it. This is your sirloins up here. How we doing on that grill, son?
It's getting hot.
Okay.
I just lip it.
So, no matter, okay, this is all your ham, your regular ham. Everybody doing good? We're almost there. We're almost done. And then we'll take a break and let some other folks do it. Here's your sirloin, here up, no matter the animal. It's the part above the ham. This is your sirloin. Not the best cut in the world, but still meat.
Gabby said yes to the refrigerator, just bring her the pans, or whatever you want refrigerator.
Okay. Well, everything we're going to cook, we're going to leave out. Hey, folks, I didn't bring anything fancy so you can actually taste what this stuff tastes like. Figure we'll just use salt. Never, not do anything fancy. And I don't know what proclivities other folks may have. Okay, here's your H-bone or your hip bone. Okay.
Pork belly in the fridge too.
Yeah. I figure we'd use that tomorrow, Darren. Is that cool? So we'll go ahead. Here's your ham, okay? Here's your ham. Here's your sirloin. We're going to cut the sirloin. I could have cut it back here and left it on with the whole loin. But for instructional purposes, I left it this way. So I'm just going to take it diagonal like so. Just kind of make a line. Get yourself a place to start. Take our bone saw. Every time I say this, I keep saying bone sauce. But it's bone saw. And it's hard, if it's, listen to that sound. Remember, what are we looking for? Right there. Bam. Excellent. Okay. There's your ham. There's your sirloin. Okay. Hardest bone to get off of any animal is always your sirloin. And I got news for you. That's why if you ever see a sirloin in the store, it's always kind of disjointed. It's pieced weird because it's this weird cut. And it's got the weirdest looking bone in there. And I'm going to get it out for you. Okay. It's almost like a weird kind of wishbone type thing, but that's how it goes. You're going to see here in a minute. Okay. This is where your sirloin steaks come from. Now, sometimes they got bone-in sirloin steaks. Now, there's an awesome nugget of meat right there. That will not go to waste. In fact, it's so tender I can yank it right out. That's the other end of the tenderloin. We'll put it in here. We'll cook that too. Okay. There ain't much on this animal, But this is where your sirloin steak would come from. So let me think about what we want to try to do with this. Okay, we're just gonna do this. Remember how we did our bacon a little while ago? We're gonna do the same thing. We'll separate that now. I left a little meat on there, but that's cool because I want this fat anyway. Bam, we'll render that. This is where your sirloin steaks will come from. We'll just, looks like we got a lot more people now, so yeah, I guess we better bust a move on some of this. Okay, so let me just kind of clean this up. And then all we're gonna do, is Darren still around or is he?
Back there, I think.
Okay. This will be something he'll cut up. That's where your sirloin steaks will come from. Okay, so we got our ham. We're gonna do what we always do. Now, as far as a fat ring on there, it's your own judgment. But honestly, it seems an awful waste for me to have, Darren, this is a sirloin. I don't know if you can get some cuts out of that. Okay. So what we're gonna do, as far as the fat ring, I want everybody to see that. You see how thick that is on this pig? Okay, that is almost ideal, what you want there. As far as the thickness of that fat ring, that is ideal. About 1 inch. When I say ideal, I'm saying from a commercial setting. For me, I want as much fat to render as possible. Like I said, I'm also in the preparedness, so having fat to render, especially in these unsure times, is especially cool to me. So what I'm gonna do, when you got this rubbery fat like this was a boar. I don't wanna eat that. If it's real rubbery like that, you see the distinction here? See how that's a different kind of fat than this type stuff here? Mm-hmm. There's a name for it, but I just can't recall. That one we can discard.
So you want the more white stuff?
Exactly. If it's not completely white, you've done this before, Shelley?
No.
Because she keeps saying things that she's like finishing my sentences. And
I just live in barbecue, Kentucky.
Oh, that'll do it. We came from barbecue, Kansas City.
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, I learned this skill at a place called the Local Pig in Kansas City, finest butcher shop there. And
I'll work for free.
yes, that's how it started. Yeah, they wouldn't. It was so competitive. All the hipsters wanted to go in there and get photo ops. And I was sick and tired of taking in our animals and getting back somebody else's. And it would burn me up because we raised them right, or no matter what the case, whether you had somebody else drop it off, you're getting somebody else's stuff back 9 times out of 10. So I was like, okay, I need to learn how to do this. So went out there, offered to sweep the floors. And then when I got in there, of course, I'm 50 right now, but I was still practically twice the age of all the other guys in there. I'd sweep the floor, I'd do anything. I was like, dude, I don't care what it is. I want to know what you know. And they saw the determinant, and then the proudest day of my life there was when they yelled out with a great deal of profanity, how the blank is it the oldest guy in here that doesn't even get paid works harder than everybody else? So, and they were all, so it made me happy that he said that. But you know what? They didn't pay me. They paid me in meat after a while. So I'd work in there. I still had a regular 9 to 5. That's jiggly. We're going to get rid of that. And honestly, they started paying me in meat, which was better than money as far as I was concerned. And he would sit there and eat that stuff like his belly button was touching his backbone. But honestly, it was cool to me because I was getting the best meat money could buy. And even then, even at that high-end butcher shop, it's pork not even comparable to what you see before you today. Even though it's a fair amount of fat, put it this way, if you want to know what the value adding is in pork, I'm monologuing right now, folks, because all I'm doing is trimming this off, okay? So I can kind of give you some backstory. We would buy pigs for essentially $500, and by the time you added value to it, back then the going rate was $2,000. So you made $1,500 profit for every pig you were able to process. And that, I'm talking, we did the high-end stuff like the mortadella, the Capicola, the prosciutto, regular ham, all that kind of stuff. So there's, you know, man, I wonder if you think we ought to smoke this ham too?
What are we gonna eat today, dude?
Well, I figure we got them pans right there, but
Yeah, we got.
I can cut this up and I can cut this up and.
do that. We got a whole other half.
Well, I figured with the other half.
You wanna do one way and the other?
Yeah, well, I was gonna let everybody else kind of put their hands on it with the next one.
Well, yeah.
Whoever, is everybody still, are there still volunteers to do that?
Huh?
Folks,
What kind of pig would you recommend starting out?
Boy, saving stuff.
guinea hogs or a,
That's what I thought it was.
something with a good sweet nature. Coonies are good. You raise coonies, right? How do you like their temperament? Pretty good, huh?
They're like dogs.
Right.
They are that best temperamented pigs. They're wonderful.
Exactly. I think,
And by the way, I'm anti-pig. We had pigs on our farm. I swore to God I would never have another pig.
I snuck these
As
in.
much as I like bacon, I will never have another pig. She comes home with the whole cooney education thing, and the next thing you know, I'm told we've had coonies for a year, and I love them. They're like dogs on the farm.
that's why.
If I could train to get coyotes.
Yeah. That's why I think, I mean, as far as those go, I agree with Joel Salatin on that by and large it doesn't matter. If you raise them right, they're going to taste right. I really believe that. And, but also the way we do it, it's non-GMO food. Hey, by the way, y'all, this is called the H-bone. If I wanted to, I left it this way on purpose. That's why, you see how it has a little hook in there? I'll go back to instructional mode. See that? Back in the old days, they would leave that there so you could hang it. Hang it right. Well, you would hang it first in the barn. You could put it in what's called a ham sock. If I wanted to cure or do what's called a country ham, you're from Kentucky. Y'all got country hams. Virginia, they got real cool country hams. You would put this thing in a sock. You would do nothing more than wrap it. You see that salt behind Darren? All you would do is cover this thing in salt.
Yeah.
If I did it, I need to change out gloves. All I would do is coat that thing in salt. Thank you, brother. Wrap it in newspaper is what they used to do, or Sears Roebuck catalog back in the day. Put it in a pair of pantyhose. Do they even make them anymore? Anyway,
Unfortunately.
so they'd hang them in pantyhose, but now they make ham socks and you'd hang it out in the barn. So they'd have hooks out there, and right there is how you'd hang it.
You have to resalt it or no? Just not salt
No,
it?
no, you salt it one time, wrap it up. It's really a cool method, and I wish if it was the right time of year. So what you would do, you would hang this, you'd hang it in salt, nothing more, but do not hang it in your garage because it'll take on the flavors of anything around it. So if you got gas, you're gonna have problems. But if you have some good hardwood, and you can hang it in there, or some people hang it in cedar, that's exactly how you'd hang it. You'd wrap it in salt, put it in a ham sock, leave the hock attached. Now I could cut this ham, this is a ham hock, right? To cut off the back hock, I could just cut it right here and take it loose. You wanna see it? I mean, should I do that?
Sure.
Okay. So, remember the front one is a ball and socket, right? The back one, it's just like your knee. It's not set up the same way. So the front was a ball and socket. If you have to, play with it. Play with the joints. And we're gonna go ahead, use a 10-inch on this. And all I'm gonna do, find out where it is, and then cut it diagonal down through there. You may have to play with it a little bit. So, there we go. We got a little bit low. So basically, I caught it in between. See that socket there and see the hock? Rear hock is always easy to get off. Front hock, there's the ham hocks. This is a ham, okay? Only thing left to do, and I'm gonna go back to your question here in a minute. I'm gonna take out, if I want to, I could leave this in here. I'm gonna take out what's called the H-bone. It's the hip, but it's spelled A-T, it's spelled weird. I don't know why. There's your H-bone. Oh, sorry, what did I miss something?
There's a gland.
Oh, yeah. My backup. I missed
That's
it.
what it looks like, yo.
You get it?
Yeah, can you show that?
And where do you find them?
Everywhere. Well, I mean, typically in the reproductive areas and
The neck.
the neck. In the neck area, typically. Okay, so this is a bone-in ham. This is what you would typically, let me straighten it up and make it look a little better. But because this meat is not completely, this is grind, we can use that. Now, this is a bone-in ham. Looks a whole lot different than that stuff you see in the store, right?
Yeah.
But if you go to a high-end butcher shop, this is a bone-in ham. Now, we can go ahead, we can make it a boneless ham. And that's simple, folks. I think I want to leave that bone in there because we're going to wind up smoking this thing. We're going to put this in the... I kind of do want to smoke it because I want to show you a pretty cool thing. It's indistinguishable from your pork butt to your ham. If you put it on the smoker and we did a blind taste test, you can't tell the difference, I guarantee it. So this is where I use kind of weird cuts to do cool things, is that you don't need to use just a pork shoulder for a pulled pork. You can use the ham. It's really that cool. So, but you want to leave that bone in there if you can help it because it's going to help add a little bit of flavor, right? Mm-hmm. So, looks a whole lot different than a store-bought ham. We can leave the hock on it if we were going to put it in a ham sock. And if you do that, always hang it with the hock side down. We could even leave the trotter on there, or the, what do you call it thing? It's trotter. The pig feet, the foot. We can leave it on there. A lot of high-end places like to do it that way. So that's cool. So what we're going to do with this one, all right, we're going to smoke this. We got to get some smoking wood. Maybe we'll figure it out. Anyway, or, well, do we have enough meat for everybody, or should I go ahead and cut this down and make steaks?
We can smoke the other one if you want to cut that one down.
Yeah.
We got another half.
You want to go ahead and do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'll go ahead and make it boneless then so you can see what I'm talking about. If you want to make it boneless. On our hams at the house, there's 3 of us there by and large, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to just go ahead and eat a whole ham because I can get more meals. Remember, I'm also a preparedness guy. So I could go ahead and do what my highfalutin son over here would do and tunnel bone this, but I'm gonna show you the easy way. You got the kneecap, got the femur, okay? And all I'm gonna do, this is easy, folks, it doesn't have to be hard. Join the 2, okay? Follow that bone, feel it out. Remember, small cuts, small mistakes. So all I'm gonna do is follow that bone. Let me go ahead and get it loose there. Pull it, and I'm gonna break this thing down into its muscle groups. And this is how we do our hams typically. I break them down into muscle groups. As far as the best pig, we'll go back to that because I can answer questions while I'm doing some of this. Actually, son, you want to take over for a minute?
What do you want to do?
Let your old man get a drink of water. Can you take that bone out?
Yeah.
As far as the best pigs, it really, honestly, I'd start out with something with a great temperament. Guinea hogs, coonies. But you got to be really careful with guinea hogs. Like right here, it is so incredibly easy to get them too heavy. So then you wind up with your fat to muscle ratios really weird. It can be weird if you're not careful. You can almost not feed them. In our mountainous environment, we can honestly go without feeding them, and they still put on weight. They still get too big. So you could think, okay, do you want a pig that produces a lot of fat, or where you get a good ratio between fat and meat? Yorkshire, Duroc. Plus, there's a lot of money cuts along there. You get a lot of pork chops, get a lot of bacon. We're all speaking that language. So another one that's basically a Duroc, which I think is fantastic, is a red wattle. Basically, it's a cross between a Duroc, but it's kind of weird looking, but they got a great sweet temperament. But right now, it's easier to find Bin Laden than it is pigs. Yeah. So right now, you need to get, honestly, we got our last batch of pigs, because we have it ferret in it. We got pigs that we would have never bought. Am I wrong, son?
I wasn't listening, I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's just like any other day, right?
I think he was watching his fingers.
Yeah.
So,
What were you asking?
It's hard to find. I mean, pigs we got 6 more What are those latest ones we got?
Yorkshire.
Yorkshires. Great money pig, but every last one of them are riddled with worms. But we know how to get rid of worms. We can even, there you go.
We had our Yorkshire.
Oh, is it? But you know what you can't, he said ivermectin.
Yeah. You're saying it's horse warmer.
But honestly, it's easier to find Waldo than it is ivermectin these days. And actually, we got some for personal use, but that's another reason altogether. Okay. So why don't you talk me through that for a minute?
So Billy, how big is too big? Like, how big should you let your pig get?
Depends on the pig, but generally, I like them no bigger than 250. When you get into 300 now, you got some of them sows. This is no joke. I've cut on sows before. I've cut up a lot of pigs, believe me. And I've cut on sows, and this is no joke, with a high-end Japanese steel knife, and you put it on there, and your knife won't even go through it. You've got to pull on it. So there is a happy space. When you get into sows, the best thing to do is take the pork chops and the bacon off of it. The rest of it goes in the freezer. Okay. He took the bone out. You get the kneecap? Yes, you did. That's my son. All right. So you got on here, this is easy, folks. If you take the bone out, just follow the muscle groups. And they're all separated by fat. So just follow your fat lines. There's no wrong way to do this, okay? Now, we could go ahead. Now, there are times where we take butcher's twine and we'd go ahead and tie this thing up so we'd have a boneless ham, right? Some people want it that way. And then all you do, I hate it that way because you're getting robbed. You're paying more and you're getting robbed. And you're getting robbed of flavor. So you could do that, or you could do what we do at the house. This is essentially the quadricep, what you see here in the front. I wish I'd have done that a little differently so you'd see it. But we're gonna turn that into steaks because you can. And all I'm gonna do, see these fat lines? I'm just gonna follow them. Small cuts. You're gonna hear me say that a lot, especially when I'm training you. Small cuts, small mistakes. There you go, remember that. Okay, there, let me trim this up a little bit more, son. There's one muscle group. A lot of times we'll put this in the freezer and we'll do a pulled pork all by itself with that. Let's go ahead and trim this up. Okay. This, in most butcher shops, in very, very high-end butcher shops, they will call this a ham roast. You know what's cold-blooded about it? They just charged you twice what it would have been to just buy the whole ham. And that's a lot of what's going on in butchery. Okay, so this one here, son, if we're gonna make steaks out of it, which we can, this will be your top round on a cow. There you go. Okay. That'll make a nice little medallion. That's grind.
This is grind?
Yep. Or actually, you could use it as a steak. I mean, just trim it up a little bit. See another fat line here, y'all? Mm-hmm. I could almost pull it apart. All I'm gonna do, real simple, just follow the fat lines, and you have different cuts in here. Like when you do a cow, everybody's heard of the regular steaks on a cow, right? Okay, what about the steaks? Like right here, you can kind of pull that apart. You see where it's separated? I could pull it apart right here. I could just run my finger through there and I could separate that. When you find fat lines, you're gonna find things that join up together, okay? So I could run my finger through there and I could separate this thing with my bare hands if I wanted. But going back to my previous thing, I'm separating muscle groups, okay? So I'll just monologue unless y'all want me to shut up. I'm gonna tell you about, okay, another reason when you take a cow in, you're getting back your, let's say a porterhouse, your T-bones, you're getting your ribeyes. You know, everybody's heard of those steaks, right? Mm-hmm. How many of you in this room have heard of a Terrace Major?
Yeah.
Terrace Minor?
Yeah.
Spider steak?
No.
Spider steak on a cow, and it has it on every animal, but it's too small, indistinguishable. Spider steak is on the end of that hip. It's on the end of that cap. If you go to places like Brazil and Argentina, it is the most prized because there's only 2 of them on every cow. And it ain't even that great. But
like the ossobuco, you know.
I love ossobuco if it's done right.
Yeah.
But see, that's another thing. There's a place that I'm glad you brought. Ossobuco is basically on a cow, it's basically the forearm cut up like this, right? It can be a fantastic cut, but we brought a cow in and they called it soup bones. All I can think about is what outfit I wanted to lay him out in. Because my point that I'm getting at here, y'all, is that there is a ton of cuts. How many times did you take in a cow and you get your skirt steak back? A lot of times you don't. The guys that are cutting that up are keeping it for themselves or making fajitas out of it. And I'm not kidding. 9 times out of 10, you're getting robbed.
We were told that too.
Here's
from the
one
butcher
there.
about the House of Buco. We had one butcher say that's his cut.
The butcher's cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's messed up because if I do custom butchery for somebody, I mean, from where I come from, unjust weights and measures ain't cool. So you want to give everybody what they pay for. Okay, on this one, like I said, follow your fat lines on the ham. There's 6 muscle groups in there. You can sit here, I can pull this thing apart if I want it to some extent, but by and large, I'm just going to follow your fat lines.
It looks like a little tenderloin.
That's exactly what it is. Yep. That's exactly what it is. Spider steak. Ask your butcher for that and see what happens. This, we can go ahead and make more chops out of. See that? Let me just clean it up a little bit so you can see it better. Folks, honestly, there's a book about that thick that shows you every single cut on just about every animal. And it's only the tip of the iceberg. That's just in the United States of amnesia. Elsewhere, that book is considerably bigger. And I guess the point I'm getting at is that on this ham, remember this was a ham a minute ago, right? I guarantee, because it was raised right, and because that meat is what color?
Red.
And what color should not?
Rosy.
Exactly,
Should be
rosy, red, whatever. On a ham, it's going to be real red. Other things, it's going to have a rosier appearance. Because of it, I know that I can make some legit, awesome steaks out of a piece of meat that should be tough as shoe leather. Don't believe me? You'll find out, because we're going to make steaks out of this ham. And we could easily do it. How cool is that? But you will not, a butcher will never, ever, ever. Look, there's some good butchers out there. They just ain't got time to mess with it the way we are. I mean, when me and Darren invented this way of doing chickens, we kind of did it out of necessity, remember?
Absolutely.
There's some cool ways to process a lot of this stuff, and it doesn't involve your butcher. Frankly, they just don't have the time to mess with it, but you do. And frankly, you can't buy meat like this in the store. Or, who was it I was talking to about that? We were talking about the lambs, the sheep you have. Most meat you cannot get in the store. You are not going to go in the store and buy you're not going to buy a steak from any other hog than anything, even in a high-end butcher shop. I guarantee they were not, by and large, were not raised in the same way that you can raise on your farm. And you're also not going to get the cuts back. And like you said, the butchers, it's like, okay, horse racing, every day there's always something at a racetrack. There's always something weird that happens at a horse race. I know this because I grew up around Remington Park. And what's going to happen? Some horse out of the blue, some nag is going to come in first. You know why? Because every race day, all the jockeys get together, they pull their money on one race, and that's what they split. It happens every horse race. Same thing with the butchers. They're going to say, okay, you know what? You ain't going to notice it. I'm taking this to the house. And that honestly happens. And it's wrong. But the only way to get around it, Darren, we do. The steaks there, yeah. Only way to do it is learn how to do it yourself. So folks, even if you turn this, I mean, think about this from a dollars and cents standpoint. We raise pork. I'm kind of being honest here when people don't believe me when I say 20 cents a pound, sometimes lower. The last video where we did dollars and cents on, I told them 31 cents. Honestly wasn't the truth because I didn't think nobody would believe me. I honestly thought, okay, nobody's ever going to believe this, but it's the honest truth. And there's a lot of frauds out here in the homesteading space on YouTube. And I didn't want to be included up, so I honestly didn't give accurate numbers. But that's the honest truth because of how we source it. Look at that, y'all. Perfect steak. And it came off a ham. You ain't ever gonna get that in the butcher shop. So,
When you butcher these under more ideal conditions, you said you like it colder at cutting
absolutely.
time. You take it out of an ice chest usually? Is that how you do it, or do you just hang it in the fridge? How do
No,
you
what
get-
I would
what's
have
your
done,
ideal temperature?
great question. What I would have done, if I didn't just dispatch this pig last night,
Right.
what I would have done, I would have cut it into primers. And I could stick that now, if it's a,
That's where you slice it up.
right, I could put all that in the fridge. Even on a big pig, I can take those primals and stick them in the fridge, I'll let them set up, and then we'll work on it. But in a sheep, I could take that whole thing, I'll take the whole carcass and I'll just fold them up like a big U, stick them in the fridge. That is a fantastic question. I'm glad you asked because I didn't even think to cover
When
it.
you say primals, what are you talking about?
There's primals and sub-primals.
Those big 4 chunks that he cut up with the 1/2. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And when he put the puzzle back together, those were the primal cuts.
Okay.
Yep. So you
And
got
then all of
primals.
these are sub-primals?
Yes. When we broke it down into, it depends.
Like with the ham, when you
With the ham,
broke
we
it
left
into the
in
little
muscle groups, That's
pieces.
technically
Yeah.
a sub-primal, but there's
Okay.
not technically a word in the book for that. So that would be sub-primals. So you got primals where we cut it into big pieces, where we can manage it. Like with a cow, for example, a regular standard cow, each side of the cow is cut into 5 primals. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. So you can throw each one over your shoulder with a great deal of, I mean, believe me, that is not fun. It makes you old quick. So, folks, there you have it. Any other questions? Did I leave anything I didn't cover?
When
Anybody?
we do cattle, to do the steaks, what is the best thickness?
A fat?
No, the best thickness of the steak.
That's all depending on you. Now, for me, you can't beat a big old 3/4 inch.
Like you could do that,
Yeah, those would be cutlets.
and twice that is your more
That'll be your
prime
standard
cuts,
cut.
yeah.
Right, that'll be your standard cut. So about a 1/2 inch is standard. I like 3/4 on a, and the reason why is because in between the vertebrae on a lamb, folks, that's where if you want to know my favorite thing in the world to
No,
cook.
I'm talking about beef.
No, on a beef though, but this is why. Because on a lamb, the perfect cut for a lamb chop is exactly perfect cut for any steak. Most butchers and chefs will tell, maybe not chefs, but butchers will tell you, is the thickness of that vertebrae. And on a sheep, it's about 1 inch to 1.25 inches. So that's perfect to them. But that's, I mean, how many people eat their meat? I mean, if you're cooking that thing, I don't know. I eat mine medium, depending on the cut, or even medium rare. So it all depends. But typically about 1 inch is ideal in most settings. Intimidated?